thanks so much for tuning into this video. I am Jay Theo, and today we're gonna be talking about something a little heavy, something a little personal that I wanna share, is the way that my daddy issues affected me and how I'm facing them. So, as I've talked about a lot on my channel, and if you follow me on my other socials, I am really big into therapy, especially men going to therapy, especially queer men going to therapy. Started therapy when I was 19 years old, and ever since I've started therapy, there's been one common thread. Issues regarding my dad. Issues that affect me as an adult because of my dad. Also my mom as well, but me and my mom have a very close relationship. We've had our ups and downs like any mother and son, but overall she has been a super emotional support for me. Me and my mom have a very friendly relationship. She's always been there for me and she's always shown that, and she's always gone above and beyond to show that. And yes, definitely my mom has flaws just like anybody else, but through therapy I realized most of my reparenting and most of the void that I have when it comes to my parents comes from my father. And now that my father has passed away, he passed away in 2020 due to prostate cancer, I'm really in a place now where I really want to speak on the things that affected me when it came to my dad and I, and also just sharing the things that I've learned in therapy on how our fathers and our parents can affect us, and the tools and the steps that I'm taking to reparent myself and to refocus myself so that I can get the best experience out of this adult life, so that I'm not dwelling on the things I didn't get. I'm not always trying to fill voids, really trying to be self-critical and self-aware so that I can keep moving forward in my life and not feeling like, you know, the things that my dad did and the things that affect me when it came to my father is freezing me in time and not allowing me to grow and move forward. Because that's the one thing, when we fail to reparent ourselves and we fail to refather ourselves, we're allowing ourselves to be frozen in time and not moving forward where we need to move forward. And I think one thing that I'm really trying to do as I go into this next year and just go into this next phase of life is that I really want to be more self-aware and more self-critical and just becoming more understanding of myself. I think the more you can understand about yourself, the more you can accept yourself, and the more you can move through the world in a way to better yourself. And after doing some self-work and some self-evaluations, I've kind of subbed up the 5 biggest issues that affect me when it comes to my dad and talk through ways that I'm going to try to power through and work through these issues. Also tips and tricks that my therapists have given me to work through these issues. But also I think just getting them out there, bringing them to light, and talking them through with you guys can help me even be better at facing them. And hopefully this video resonates with you as well. If you guys have daddy issues, which I know a lot of us queer men have, or even if you have mommy issues, hopefully this can help you be more self-critical, think about the things that are affecting you, and even though these things affect us, taking the opportunity to use this as a tool to reparent yourself, refather yourself, provide the things for you that you wish your dad did, or use this as a time to really evaluate the issues that you're having and use these as talking points in therapy. Once again, I'm always gonna push therapy, but I know a lot of us don't have the access to therapy, so anything that I've learned in therapy, I'm gonna try to share as much as I can with you guys, so you guys can be more self-critical, more self-aware, you guys can evaluate what your emotions are doing, and try to reconnect the dots as to why you may take the paths or why you're on the journey that you're on. Okay, so just to give a backstory of my relationship with my dad, me and my dad have had a very estranged relationship throughout my entire life. I would definitely say when I was younger, my dad was more hands-on. He was more fun and happy. But as I got older, as I reached my adolescent stage, my dad, he was just kind of very distant. He was not the nicest dad. He was very hyper masculine, and he worked third shift for General Motors for 35 years. So he worked in the plant and the factory. He made decent money for a family living in Saginaw, Michigan, which is where I'm from. But over time, as we got older, he definitely became more distant and more distant away from us. I have 3 other siblings I grew up with. I have 4 siblings in total. Oldest from my oldest sibling from my dad's first marriage, but I had 3 siblings that I grew up with. And every time we would come home from school, my dad would close his door. He wouldn't really talk to us. He would just let us play video games, let us do what we want. He would check in. My dad also was very physically abusive. I got in fights with my dad before. My dad was a huge fan of the belt, a very old school, hyper masculine black man from the South. So that's how he operated when it came to discipline, when it came to chores, when it came to all of the above. My dad was very strict when it came to grades and all of those things, and I was a high achiever, so I thought that I wouldn't have many issues with my dad as I started to become, you know, I was valedictorian in high school. I got all A's in elementary school, but my dad still found ways to be triggered and to be upset, and he projected a lot of that bitterness and intensity on his children. He was also, you know, from my understanding, not a fan of me being gay. He used to beat me for playing with Barbie dolls. He did not like any of that. My mom used to have to sneak Barbie dolls for me. So just to give you an idea, my dad, he was very religious. He was not a fan of gayness and being queer. And this is not a video to shade my dad. Like I said, this is a video of me being honest about me facing the daddy issues that I have and how it's affected me as I have reached adulthood. Okay, so with all that being said, I want to list off 5 issues that I feel like have truly affected me and that I'm working on, the things that I've talked about in therapy when it comes to my dad. And I think a lot of queer men, I think a lot of straight men, and even a lot of women could probably relate to a lot of these things when it comes to facing our daddy issues. So my first issue that I want to talk about is the low tolerance for disrespect. I have an extreme low tolerance, especially when it comes to men, for disrespect. My dad was very disrespectful when it came to my mom at points in time. He often, when he would come home from work or if he had a long day, he would be mean, he would have an attitude, he would just not be warm. And it was something that I seen constantly seeing my mom have to deal with, to the point that me and my brothers and my sister would try to defend my mom in moments when my dad was being disrespectful. And having to witness that over the years, it really has brought me to a point where I don't really have a high tolerance for men disrespecting me. I'm very quick to ghost and to block and to stop responding when a man starts disrespecting me, calling me out my name, raising his voice, any of those things, and just having a aura of disrespect, even if it's disrespecting a waiter, disrespecting friends. I just don't deal with disrespect very well, and it's made me have a very low tolerance for it. You know, I definitely think this is a quality or an effect from daddy issues that I think most people would claim is a good one. Yes, but I think it also makes it really hard for me to accept people's flaws and accept people being human. I think sometimes we as men get upset. Sometimes we may say the wrong thing, and I think for me it really limits my grace for when men are having a moment, if their emotions are rising, if they're upset. It really shortens my tolerance for them to be upset, which I think is not really giving them the full grace to be a human. I think men should be able to show emotions. I speak about it all the time. I don't think people should disrespect you, but I think sometimes my thought of what disrespect is, I feel like can be blurred because I just don't allow anybody to raise their voice, be aggressive, have any type of disdain with me at all. Within that, I think it's definitely developed a level of fear when it comes to men for me. I'm not scared of just men in general, but I do think when I'm in situations with men, when we have a disagreement, it does heighten a fear level in me. Like I said, my dad was extremely abusive and he was very aggressive. And I feel like when a dude's raising his voice, if we are in my home or in their home, we're in an intimate space and a man is getting loud with me, raising his voice at me, it does bring up a fear that I have. I feel like is reminiscent of when I was a kid when my dad would do that. And I definitely feel like some experiences I've had when it comes to aggression I've dealt with men when dating, and even experiences that have come close to SA when it comes to men, I definitely have developed some level of fear when it comes to engaging with men, and I definitely have more of a guard up when it comes to having men being in my space and men being intimate with me. Also, I do think this probably is a good thing, but I also have a low tolerance for play fighting, any type of play fighting, tussling, wrestling, anything like that. I just don't have a high interest in at all. It freaks me out. It brings me back to like an abusive state, and I don't like that. I think yet again, and talks in therapy, these are things that my therapist agreed that are okay to have come to terms with as I've dealt with my daddy issues, demanding respect, not allowing foul play, not being allowing yourself to be abused, which I think are great things that have come out of me facing my daddy issues. But I know these are things some people don't even think about. Some people think about play fighting. Some people get loud and upset and they immediately get aggressive. And those are things that's the norm for them. And I just have a low tolerance for it. So after talking to my therapist about these things, they agree that these aren't things to feel shame about or to be upset with myself about, that these things can even better some of my relationships. But I definitely think these are effects of me having issues when it comes to my dad, when it comes to his level of aggression and violence that we had growing up. And overall, like I said, it showcases my intolerance for disrespect and any form or even sign of abuse. Okay, so another huge factor that came out of the daddy issues that I have a very heightened level of independence. So I've never been in a relationship. If you watch some of my other videos, you have seen that I've never been in a relationship. I've had situationships. I've talked to guys for a while. So I've gone on dates. I've definitely had my share of dating, connected with men, but I've never gotten to a point that I've wanted to be in a serious relationship. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that I'm a very independent person. Getting a full tuition scholarship to the college, being valedictorian, having to take out loans to cover room and board, things like that. I've always had to support myself and save myself even as early as 18 years old. I had 2 jobs back in high school because my dad was like, if you want to buy your own stuff, if you want to buy yourself clothes, you need to get jobs, you need to work. So I've always been somebody who's worked and depended on myself. And I've noticed in the moments where I've ever had to depend on my dad for anything, it's always brought me despair. After I turned 18, anytime I had to call my dad from college needing a jacket, if it was cold outside, or needing extra money for books, my dad repeatedly told me no. So I learned very quickly that I could not depend on my father as an adult, and I think it's increased my level of independence now that I, am in adulthood and I live alone. I value a lot of my alone time, and I think a lot of that comes from the fact that I don't even want someone to come in my space and risk someone ruining the things that I've built being independent. I do know the goal and the best way to be, and my therapist have told me this, is to be interdependent. So my goal is to be as interdependent as possible when I do find my partner, and that's something that I really want to work through with my partners, be honest with him that I am a very independent person, and it may take some time for me to get past that, but I want my partner to be open to the fact and show me grace that I may be highly independent and that I have not ever made the decision to be in a relationship with anyone because I felt that I never felt that urge to be that vulnerable, be that open to someone, and allowing myself to ever feel that I'm dependent on someone. I don't ever want to feel that way, and that's something I feel like if I want to be in a relationship, something that I definitely need to fix, and something that my therapist told me that I do need to work on is this goal of wanting to become more interdependent, where I have my independence, but I also have a partner, and we help each other, and we guide each other, and we show each other grace for the things we need within ourselves and within a relationship. Because overall, just how controlling and demanding my dad was when we were growing up, the thought of a man controlling me, a thought of a man demanding things of me all the time, a thought of the man telling me what to do, a thought of me falling into some type of gender role or role position like my mom did when she was raising us, really honestly disgusts me. I have no desire, and that's why for me, I really need to meet someone who is open to a more interdependent lifestyle, not a transactional relationship. That's not something that I really want from my partner. I really want something that's more of a partnership that limits control, that limits demands, and just more of a shared front and an equal front versus a authority demanding, demeaning type of relationship that I know a lot of people can find themselves in. Okay, so the next aspect of daddy issues that I have to face and that I deal with is the fact that I do generalize men, particularly black men. I tend to generalize them. Because my experience with my dad has been such an intense one. Like I said, I've gotten in fist fights with my dad. My dad abused me a lot growing up. I had some pretty intense moments with my dad when it came to abuse, not just physically and verbally. And for me, it's hard to not look at other men when you're dating them and think about the relationship you had with your father. I can only speak for myself, but it's just hard to do that. And sometimes because my dad was a black man and I haven't had the best experiences dating black men, I tend to generalize black men a lot. And it's something that my therapists have told me time and time again that I really need to work on if I definitely want to find love with a black man, and if I want to have faith in the fact that I can find love with a black man, or any man in general, because it starts with the blackness, but I use it to paint a very broad brush around men in general. And some of the ways that I generalize men is the fact that I think they're mean, they're empathetic, that they don't ever know how to show emotion, that they can't be understanding, and that they don't seek to understand. My dad was somebody who did not seek to understand my mother, did not seek to understand his kids. It was very his way or the highway, and I've dated guys like that. So I also feel like for me, I tend to generalize that no man is going to want to understand me. No man is going to want to seek to understand me. No man is going to want to accept me for me. I've also dated a lot of men that want to change me, that want to make me think a certain way or make me think a different way, and my dad used to be like that too. He used to always be like his way. So I definitely think that the generalizing of black men, generalizing of men is a battle that I continue to deal with. But luckily my therapist guided me the fact that I always think about the black men in my life that do not remind me of my father, and use that as a way to showcase that there are black men out there that aren't like my father. For instance, my brother that I'm really close to, he's super supportive, he's very emotionally available, and you know, he's basically my best friend. And that's an aspect of a black man showing me that he can show love. Even my barber, I know he watches my YouTube videos. My barber is such a super dope black man. He's in his 50s. He's a great father to his kids. He's just a very dope person. And he's somebody who reminds me that black men can be dope and black men can be supportive. And even some more friends that I've met this past year in LA, some new black male friends that I've met, I'm realizing that there are great black men out there that are supportive, that can be there for you, that are not out to get you, that do have empathy, can be emotionally open, that can be nice. You know, just can be nice and can be supportive. So that's something I continuously work on. But definitely the things that my dad has done as a black man and what he's shown me as a black man, I do project on a lot of other black men and men in general. So I definitely want to stop generalizing, projecting my thoughts of my father on to black men. And if you guys are working through that, I really appreciate any thoughts of advice on how you guys work through that. Like I said, my therapist kind of gave me tips on to really think about other black men and other men in my life that aren't like that. And as someone who's very pro-black, this is something that really hurts me, that I even think in my head sometimes, is that I do generalize black men, especially because I do want love in the black form, and I do want to also show grace and understanding and acceptance for other black gay men, because we're all traumatized and we all deal with trauma at the end of the day. Okay, on to the next issue that I've been facing, and I spoke to a little bit in the previous issue, as the desire to be understood. This is something that I feel like has really created an issue for me when it comes to dating and when it comes to even befriending black gay men, is just wanting to be understood and the desire to be understood and somebody to want to understand me. When I was in therapy, my therapist was telling me a lot that I definitely do have a unique mindset, I have a unique thought process about being an adult, living life and finding love and things like that. And a lot of people just don't think like me. And so often when I'm meeting guys, especially ones that have been victims of patriarchy, victims of misogyny, that fall, you know, into the trance of self-hate and into the trance of internalized homophobia, sometimes it's hard for me to find men that understand me. And having a father that never sought to understand me really makes me feel like at times like nobody's gonna want to understand me. Nobody's gonna seek to understand me. Nobody wants to accept me for who I am. Everybody's always gonna want to change me. And that's something that I'm taking time every year after year on this growth of healing and on this journey to be more introspective. I'm definitely trying to get to a place where I feel that men will seek to understand me. And I think me getting more in tune and more self-aware with who I am and more self-aware with my feelings and my emotions, how I feel and how I project, I feel that I can then better understand myself, so that when I'm looking for someone to better understand me, I can explain and use the words and have the know-how to help them understand me. And then I can use that same perspective to get better at understanding gay men and other men as well when I'm dating them, so that it's more of a mutual level of understanding and not you just have to understand me, but I don't understand you. More of a mutual understanding. So definitely feeling that I can find a man that will understand me, seek to understand me, be open to understanding me, and giving me the grace to be the unique, different person that I am. I definitely want to get to a place where I fully can be open to that and open to the thought of finding that. Lastly, the biggest issue I think probably a lot of us face, and that caused probably the biggest issues for us when we're out there dating as people that have daddy issues, is the craving of affection from men. So I definitely have a crave for affection when it comes to men, especially black men, because I never got that from my father. He wasn't someone to hug and to say I love you, to say I'm proud of you. He wasn't someone to show words of affection or affirmation. He wasn't one to show physical affection. I got all of that from my mom. I feel like the first time my dad said he was proud of me was when I moved to New York and I was 22, 23 at the time. And even then, I don't really think he said it in just a direct way. It was kind of a roundabout way. So I definitely just feel like overall just affection from men is something that I've noticed that I crave, and something that I have been in therapy to work through in ways that I feel like I'm trying to be more conscious of the ways that I crave affection and attention. For me, definitely in my younger years, I definitely think the physical, so sex, knowing that men love sex, was an easy way for me to get attention from men, and it definitely has created kind of a desensitizing when it comes to my idea of sex. I used to put sex on a more precious pedestal, and I think because I've used it as a way to get attention from men and a way to to feel this void and this craving of affection. It definitely has changed my view on how I view sex, and it actually has me wanting to view sex going forward in my life in a more precious way. As someone who's definitely, had promiscuous episodes in my life, someone who's gone to sex parties and been a part of that culture of hooking up, I definitely want to get to a place more where I stop craving this affection in a way that can be toxic to my health. I definitely don't shame sex or anything like that, but putting myself at risk for certain things, putting myself at risk for STDs, putting myself at risk to be SA'd, putting myself at risk just having strangers in my home and things like that for sex just isn't something that I really want to continue for my life, and I want to be better at, so that I can be better at protecting myself and truly loving myself. Also, when it comes to craving of attention, it's definitely maybe want to demand quality time more when I'm dating someone. I think something that a lot of men don't actually want to put the time in is spending quality time and getting to know and really trying to build a connection with someone. And I think that my lack of quality time with my father has really made me as someone who wants to go on dates. I want to explore the world. I want to talk. I want to get to know. I want to have conversation. Not having a mental connection with my father has also made it as something I search out from men. I want conversation. I want dialogue. I want to be able to talk. I want to be able to dive in and be real with my person, because this is something I never got from my dad. And in an effort to repair myself, I will not allow myself to have a partner that can't be vulnerable, cannot open up, cannot connect, cannot discuss, cannot communicate. That is something that is super important to me, because my dad was not the best at communicating with my mom, was not the best with communicating with kids, and that's a void, and that's something in the way I want to reparent myself, is create and build that communication with me and my partner. Also, within craving that affection, I want the affection in a less transactional way. I have realized a lot of relationships in general are very transactional, and I don't want my relationship with a man to be transactional. I feel like when it came to my parents and it came to my dad, he was very transactional. A woman does this, I do this, a woman does this, I pay for this, you do this. It was very much, I spit out money, I pay for things, you have to do this. And I never want a relationship like that. I never want to be in a transactional kind of relationship. Like I said earlier, I really want to be in an equal footing with my partner, and I want us to feel like we both have skills and things that contribute to the relationship. And that's how I want to view and guide my relationship. I want us to be equal partners. I want us to value each other equally. I want us to look at each other's skills. I want us to communicate and talk about the things that make us, and talk about the things that we feel we can add value to our relationship and add value to our connection. And within this also, being vulnerable. I crave the desire where a man feels like he can be vulnerable with me, and I can feel like I can be vulnerable with the man. I struggle still with being vulnerable and being open with a man, because the times that I have been vulnerable and open with men, they have used it against me, they have been negative towards me, they have belittled my emotions, called me sensitive. And that's what something my dad would do all the time. He would say, don't cry, you're being too sensitive. And I just cannot have a partner like that, and I would refuse to tolerate that within a relationship. I want somebody that can be vulnerable, I want somebody that can open up, and I feel like also if I meet somebody that can be vulnerable, that can be open, then they can help me be more vulnerable. They can help me be open. We can help each other. Like, I really want to view my relationship with a man and with a partner and with a connection when it comes to a man as someone that I can be my full self with, someone that I can be open and honest with, and they feel that they can be the same. And I feel like if we both have that same ideology together, how can we not be a force for each other? How can we not support each other? How can we not be there for each other in the ways that we need? And I think it would be such a great opportunity for us to be able to utilize each other to really practice and get better at sharing and being emotional beings and heightening our emotional intelligence. Now, I definitely don't think we should trauma bond and trauma dump each other. I definitely think that we have to make sure when the timing is right on how we want to develop these connections and these bonds. But I think just being open and having the grace to doing that, and also giving the grace to someone else to be vulnerable to do that, is something that I definitely want to do in a way that I want to reparent myself when it comes to dating, when it comes to relationships with regard to my daddy issues. So guys, I hope this was helpful. I hope to help you think deeper about how your daddy issues have affected you, and maybe even has heightened the desire for you to face your daddy issues and come to terms with some of the issues that you've had when it comes to your father, when it comes to your parents in general. I definitely want to use this time as I get older every year to better myself, to be more introspective, to be more self-critical, and to self-evaluate. And I think the more we have these conversations amongst each other, and as we build community with each other, I feel like we can become more comfortable with facing these demons, facing these issues that we have, and bettering ourselves for the future. I think we all can take the time to refather ourselves, and help create the men that we want to be for ourselves. So guys, don't forget to subscribe. Please like this video if it resonated with you. Please make sure to comment. I would love to hear about your stories when it comes to your daddy issues and how you're facing them, or if you have any tips or tricks for anybody when it comes to dealing with their issues that they've dealt with parenting. Any tricks and tips from therapy, please also feel free to drop in the comments. I love hearing from you guys. But as always guys, do your best to stay safe, stay positive, and I will see you guys on the next video.